All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Eddy Live podcast. We are coming to you live again, once again, from Eddy's Canteen. I'm here with DJ Border Breaks, aka Bo.
What's up, Eddie? Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, my brother. We made it. We finally made it out. Yeah, it's been kind of a longish day, and I'm happy to have you here, bro.
Well, I appreciate the patience, and thank you to your audience for checking this out.
Yes. So, tell me about yourself, man. This is kind of a very rare impromptu kind of have some info, but not that much. So why don't you introduce yourself before we dive in, bro?
My name is DJ Bo. No stops, no caps, no brags, just facts. Shanghai's number 2 DJ, and I'm on tour here on the Faces, Spaces, and Breakses. Doing a week in Taiwan. I've spent a couple weeks before on the road, and I got a couple weeks more, and that's what I do for a lot of my time. I'm a road warrior DJ, among other things, but I really kind of consider myself a DJ first, and I've DJed in 29 countries and 49 cities in China where I'm based.
Okay, and you say, you call China home. Tell me a little bit about where in China and about China.
Well, Shanghai.
Shanghai.
And Shanghai is an interesting place. I do a lot of discussions and work with the Shanghai Historic Society and such.
Nice.
Because Shanghai has a shared culture with the rest of China, but also an interesting, unique one tied into itself.
Okay.
For example, Ruan Lingyu is a great Shanghai silent film actress. I have her tattooed right here. And Shanghai has a wonderful legacy of jazz, opium, and whores. And not directly, but at least in the spirit, we try to keep that that going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I moved to Shanghai in 2010. Since then, I've had domiciles in other places, but I've always maintained one during that time in Shanghai.
Gotcha.
And that's where I'm based. Before that, I lived 6 months in South Florida, where I'm originally from, because I'm a Floridian.
Gotcha.
And there I was working for Platinum Gold Entertainment mostly as a dancer and an MC for events. Danced behind the Who at the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of my claim to fame there.
Beautiful.
But lots of quinceañeras.
Quinceañera.
Well, yeah. Do you have Mexican roots or Latin roots?
I do. So I am Mexican. I was born in Canada. But my parents are Mexican. So my parents immigrated. Actually, my sister also, older sister, born in Mexico. Mm-hmm. 3 of them immigrated to Canada. And then I was born in Canada. So first generation Canadian.
Yeah.
But outside was Canada, but at home everything was Mexican. We spoke Spanish. All the food was Mexican.
I dig it.
So that's
why this food's so authentic and gonna be delicious.
That's right. That's what's up.
I dig it.
Try. Yeah.
I'll talk to you about DJing in Mexico and some of those experiences, and some of my other experiences in Immokalee, Florida. Do you know about Immokalee, Florida?
I do not. I've never even heard the word before. So.
Well, we'll talk about that. But in South Florida, most of the cultural influence is Cuban, Latin, Caribbean, less the Mexican side. But I have then since explored the Mexican culture side. And we're in a Mexican restaurant, I can talk about that some.
Of course.
But before that, I lived in South Florida again.
Gotcha.
I lived 3 years in the country of Mongolia.
Yes. Tell me about that. I did the research that I saw. You're able to speak Mongolian, right?
Timo. Tishte. Sambatsu no Mongohon. Let me jump back a little bit. I'll tell you what led up to me getting to Mongolia. But we'll talk about Mongolia. I promise. I promise.
Please
so
do.
I went to the University of Florida in Gainesville, a punk rock town, and where I got a degree in philosophy. But before I did that, saw a lot of my friends kind of hanging out, just kind of working at coffee shops, doing nothing. And I was someone who was very busybody. I had a band. I was involved with a lot of philanthropy, volunteer work.
Let's go.
Gotta hustle. And I knew I didn't want to do that, but I knew I liked to volunteer and I liked to travel. I liked to hit the road. And so in the United States, for how much longer, it's hard to say with a new presidential administration. There's a program called the Peace Corps, which was initiated by John F. Kennedy.
I've heard of it.
And the Peace Corps is VSO. There's JCO is the Japanese version, but it's basically a program to volunteer in developing countries.
Okay.
You go on a mission for 2 years, 3 months. 3 months of training, 2 months in the country. And Because I was hustling, I had a boutique clothing brand I was doing,
Nice.
and I like Latin girls, and I
Okay.
figured I'll do business in South America. And there's a very big, arduous application process. I was able to get through it, which was
Okay.
really cool, and I was
Nice.
pretty young to do that, especially while I was still working on my undergraduate at the time, and that was cool. And I was like, all right, I'll be able to time it so right when I graduate I can go. But then the Peace Corps officer who was stationed at the school said, unfortunately, that program is going to be delayed, the one I was going to join. They said,
Gotcha.
you can wait, or,
That's
hey,
funny.
look at this. There's a availability to teach English in Central Asia. I was like, well, never really considered Asia or
Interesting.
necessarily teaching English, but why the hell not? Now, one thing I didn't know at the time, spoiler alert, is that for the Peace Corps, at least for many years, there was perpetually openings for Central Asia to teach English because nobody wanted to do it.
Interesting.
But so I was a little tricked a little bit. But then, like the TV show or
So
the movies.
I got to
Mission
ask you
Impossible-
quickly though.
Oh, sure.
What is Central Asia?
Oh, Central Asia is Kazakhstan, Mongolia. I
that's
wasn't
what it-
sure, but so let me
Okay,
answer that.
keep going.
When they say Central Asia, it involves the countries that Peace Corps is involved in, but they don't tell you what it is.
Oh, okay.
But like Mission Impossible, they send you a letter in the mail. You open the letter, it says the country, and you can either choose to accept this mission or not.
And then it self-destructs, right?
It does. I can't say because I accepted it.
There you go. Okay,
but
okay.
I don't have proof that it wouldn't.
That's right.
Because if you accept it, they take it. If not, maybe you get another letter, maybe you didn't. I was like, heck, let's do it.
Let's try it out, man.
So
How old were
Mongolia.
you at this time? That sounds cool. Yeah.
What, 21,
Oh,
22?
yeah. Nice,
Whatever,
nice.
something like
Okay,
that. Yeah,
okay.
right when I graduated, 22,
I like
I
it.
guess.
I
yeah.
like it.
So I was like, okay, Mongolia. We had a few I guess a week training in Atlanta. Then was shipped out to Mongolia. Lived 3 months in the nomadic town of Dulahan. A town where most places didn't have running water. Lived with a family there. Then I was chosen to live in Darkhan, which is a place that I still have a lot of love for in my heart. Darkhan, Mongolia.
Darkhan. All right.
Yes, sir.
Got to get the Jewish accent. The Darkhan.
Well, the Mongolians and
Is it
Jewish people,
similar?
usually you don't consider them to be the same, but I guess you can call it parallels there. Lots of wandering.
Darkhan.
Wandering, Mongolians nomadic. I mean, we can
Okay,
really work with
that's
this.
cool.
There's some, and there's some interesting connections that happen
Interesting.
to Judaism in Mongolia we could talk
Okay.
about. But Darkhan, 2 years. Then I moved to Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital. Red
capital.
hero, Ulan red, Batar hero, and I stayed there after my Peace Corps service. I was
Okay.
an anchor for TV news. I was working on the club
What?
scene, managed a nightclub that we branded the Cross-Eyed Gypsy.
Wheeling and dealing.
Just-
and let's
just
go,
doing the-
right?
the
Doing
wheels
wheeling,
keep
dealing.
turning.
Okay. Beautiful.
Rolling on the river.
I know it. I love
So that's where kind of the roots of a media group called Art Ger got started. Ger is the root word for family, and it's also the name of the yurts in the Mongolian language.
Okay.
And so Art Ger is now the biggest project that I work with in terms of numbers. It's a YouTube channel,
Oh.
ARTGER, 600,000 subscribers. It focuses
Wow.
on
Beautiful.
culture, a lot of food stuff. It's based in Mongolia, but we're going to be doing a lot more filming outside of it.
Nice.
I posted a lot of stuff, and we work on a lot of aspects of it.
Excellent.
Anyway, Mongolia, stay there, negative 40-degree weathers. Winters, negative 40-degree winters.
Okay.
I was like, enough of that. So I moved back to South Florida, and then
Ooh.
I kind of got bored. I was like, yeah. So I had an opportunity to go to Shanghai, so that's where I went. I've never. Let me ask you.
Shoot.
Like, were you someone who, when you were growing up, was like, oh,
I should go to
I was Asia. Were you one of those guys? Were you like, oh, super into anime
No,
or Bruce Lee
I definitely
or
wasn't.
like Chinese culture or something like that?
As like a Mexican, no, definitely
Well, just
not.
as a dude,
But
right?
just like,
There's some Mexicans love
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But I mean, like, I never thought about it. I remember learning about Asia as a
Yeah.
kid, thinking, "Well, that's a huge place. That looks
Yeah.
kind of cool. I'd like to check it out someday." But that was about as far as it went. But when I came out here, I like Bruce Lee. I mean, I love Bruce Lee. It's funny.
I'm more a Sonny Chiba guy, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
It's funny because you come and you assume, there's kung fu. There's be doing kung fu and stuff everywhere, right?
I had to fight four guys on
yeah.
the way here. You don't usually
exactly,
do that?
right? Yeah. So, the Tai Chi in the parks and stuff. That's more
Well, that's true.
accurate. But no, I assumed all that, and I thought I'm gonna come out here for a couple of years, around 23.
Yeah.
And it's been like 20 years now, so
I dig it.
I love it. It's a good spot. My family's Mexican. I was doing some stuff and things weren't working out. And they're like, well, you go back to Mexico and you can teach there. And I was a soccer coach in Canada and I did some in Mexico, also in Taiwan. And I thought, I got to go somewhere different. I'm a young guy, single, whatever. I'm going to go somewhere else, like Asian women. Okay.
See, yeah.
That's huge. That's
Oh, yeah. Well, like
that's part of it.
Nobody necessarily believes in me. But if you would have asked me before I went to Asia, or even in the middle there, are you attracted to Asian culture? Any aspect, the chicks, the whatever, I would have said, not really, no.
Yeah.
But obviously, different things have developed since then, and I'm involved in a lot of different cultural aspects. One thing with Bruce Lee, so I can talk a few different aspects of that. But one is, in the middle of April, I'm doing a weekend of programming in Hong Kong called Wax On, April 12 to 14, I think it is, and be interviewing different cultural people from the history of Hong Kong, especially around music.
Beautiful.
It's kind of tied to Record Store Day. One of the people I'm talking with is someone I've known for quite a while now, and is a really interesting cat I could talk a lot about. His name is Anders Nelson. And Anders Nelson was one of the premier rock stars in Hong Kong from the 60s. Anders Nelson and the Inspirations, into the 70s with his band Ming, and even today, he's an icon, super popular there. And even so, when Bruce Lee was making his films there, he wanted to kind of attract a Hong Kong audience to see it, because they didn't know him other than being like a dancer when he was young, living in Hong Kong, because he really grew up in the States. He spent a lot of time in the States. Seattle, right? So he gave a cameo to Anders Nelson as a baddie who gets thrown around and beat up there. So I'm going to be doing an interview event with Anders Nelson.
Well, that's cool.
So he's some of the Bruce Lee programming that comes up about the history and people who knew Bruce Lee. He's one of those guys. We're not going to talk exclusively about Bruce Lee, but it's one of those things that is a good card to pull when you knew one of the biggest icons of the 20th century.
Man, Bruce Lee is, I mean, I grew up, I loved, all the Kung Fu movies and stuff like that, developed the Jeet Kune Do, and then all of a sudden, and then Dragon, the Bruce Lee story was also kind of, it was cool. All
the big boss
that was great.
Was played by John Ben. He's the bearded guy at the cigar.
I remember that guy.
He is a very, very colorful character, even before he did that movie and then subsequent to it. He lived most of the last decade of his life in Shanghai. And he had his book that he would flog, and he would show up dressed dapperly. He had to be in his 70s, if not 80s by then, with two beautiful young women on his arm, and would show up to bars. And someone like that shows up, an icon, he gets free drinks. And boy, did he really enjoy those free drinks. He used to get sloshed, but he was just a colorful character who's got a really interesting story. There's a book that was, I guess you can kind of say, semi-self-published, but my friend Stuart Baldwin was the guy who really kind of fronted a lot of it. I highly recommend reading that book. John Ben was a really nice guy, and he's passed away since then. But it's one of those cool guys, like colorful characters that they're really hard to place, and I just value those sorts of interesting people, and I really search them out all around the world. I've got a whole bunch that I can talk about.
That's awesome, man. Let's talk about the music scene.
Sure.
Out there. Shanghai's #2 DJ. What's this about?
It says it right there.
Okay, so what's up with the number two?
number 2. Okay.
You got to tell me.
Sometimes, you know what? For you, Eddie, sometimes I tell kind of white lies about this, little different stories. But for you,
I'll take it.
And your audience, I'm going to be telling you the exact truth.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yes,
all right.
Please do. Appreciate you.
Let me give you a little spoiler. Everything turns out friendly and nice. But while I guess like 10 years ago, there was a DJ by the name of DJ Spenny. Spencer Tarring. I think Spencer Tarring. And he was DJing. He's the resident DJ. He's involved in a lot of business things, but at a very big, posh nightclub called Mint.
Okay.
And he decided to put together a media campaign proclaiming himself Shanghai's #1 DJ.
Okay.
And the campaign, and like I said, we're all friendly now. I consider it kind of sexist and vaguely sort of racist. It was him with a bunch of naked Chinese girls kind of lying over him. It was kind of cheesy and just kind of exploitative and just dumb. And there's a lot of people, DJs in the music scene, or even everyone was just like, Is there? Do I have to keep this clean?
No, go for it. Shoot.
Well, yeah,
you're good,
like
you're good. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to
you're
make
good, you're
sure.
good. That's okay. No
I
problem, no
respect
problem.
you and
Yeah.
your audience here.
No
It's
problem.
like who's this motherfucker?
Yeah.
Saying this shit.
Taiwan,
yeah,
yeah.
just what's that?
Sorry. He's Shanghai's number one. I'm thinking
Oh,
Taiwan. Shanghai.
declaring himself Shanghai's number one,
Okay.
doing this kind of cheesy campaign.
Yeah.
So what?
Was he Shanghainese? Is he from China?
Oh no, he's from the UK. That was
Oh,
part of what
oh,
makes
that's
it
what-
made it
okay.
ridiculous. He's living in Shanghai
Okay.
with the naked Chinese girls, and it just reeked of sort of an
That's
imperial
cringy,
vibe.
slimy.
Yeah, just cringy, slimy, and especially because he was DJing in not places where the
number one would be.
well, commercially speaking, I guess you can say that, but there's a lot of DJs digging, working hard, working on the technique. He wasn't necessarily doing that. Now, I will say some people look down negatively on DJs and stuff, and we can talk about how a DJ works and stuff. There is a skill to being a big room DJ, and he did do that, and he was doing it fine. But was he really in the DJ battles, working it out in the underground spots, like a fight club? You know, he was like a shiny, happy boxer. We were in the fight club, in the dungeons, and the battling it out, and then someone's like, "I'm the best fighter." Well, fuck you.
I got you.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I decided we're gonna. You said I can say some things.
Go
we're
ahead.
gonna say
Say
some
it.
things.
That's
I got my big fat ginger friend.
Okay.
I paid him in cocaine to lay naked, basically on top of me, in a parody of the campaign.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
And
Okay.
I did an exact parody of the poses.
Perfect.
Got a local Chinese photographer who was inspired by this campaign, and I did basically a parody campaign. But I basically decided the impetus was, well, if you can just declare yourself your ranking with no call, you might as well get in early.
Yeah.
So I just called myself Shanghai's number 2 DJ.
I love that.
And the campaign went viral. It was successful in that regard. People thought it was funny and made the point about Spenny, and was also just kind of funny and ironic and cool. And that title, partially for my doing, kind of claimed there. And part of the reason is what you did. People always ask it. I don't say I'm the best DJ.
Okay.
I'm the ranked by Time Out this or that. I just say I'm Shanghai's number 2 DJ, and people always ask me about it. Which
it's more of a talking point.
It's a talking point, and there's a sense of mystery to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
because
so
everyone calls themselves number one. Usually, right?
I do a lot of going into markets in different areas, and you try to brand something. I think it's an interesting branding.
I love it.
So that's where
actually.
I go with. So Shanghai's number 2, SH number 2. I'm committed. I'm in.
I love that,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, that's cool. So
And Shanghai itself just has a interesting branding and history of mystery.
Okay.
A history of mystery. That's right.
Ooh, that's the
To
next
it,
title.
You know?
Yeah. That's the next-
And so Shanghai number 2, I think there's good juju to that.
I do like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And what about what was the scene like in Mongolia? You weren't doing any of the DJ stuff out there.
I did.
You did both. So you did that.
Well-
are they similar? Because I know.
No.
I would imagine it's not.
I mean, Mongolia even today has about 3 million people at 4 at most.
Okay.
My neighborhood in Shanghai has that many people.
Okay.
That's not hyperbole.
Okay.
That's right. So you have Ulaanbaatar, it's the main town. So one thing is, and because I have a lot of different ethical stances that I proclaim very forcefully, and it's kind of a big part of what I do.
Gotcha.
In terms of media that I use, posters and things. But one of the rules of the Peace Corps is you do not take money to do any work because you're there as a volunteer.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I spent most of my time there as a volunteer, right? So, but also this was during the George W. Bush years where the economy was really tanking in a lot of ways. And so, like, the stipend we were getting wasn't necessarily even covering our nuts.
Okay.
But one thing I would do is I would end up teaching things for food, which is considered fair and just like a proper thing. Again, not taking cash.
Gotta eat, yeah.
But while I was in Mongolia, I would not take money to DJ. But so let me back up. So in Gainesville, Florida, I had a band called The Factor. And Gainesville's a punk rock town. That's where Against Me's from, Tom Petty, Less Than Jake.
Okay.
I really got involved in the music scene, and it's very DIY.
Okay.
And so you just get involved. Hey, are you singing in a band? No. Okay, you can play drums. Oh, no, you can't do that. Why don't you design the flyer? Oh, you can't do that. Why don't you help move equipment? Oh, so I had various different roles of things, and I ended up getting into producing shows. And I would host the shows, and I would play in the bands, some together, some not. Make flyers, post flyers, but I would make playlists in between the shows, and those got a lot of attention, and people liked them. And I started just a couple of times, started DJing in Gainesville in college. Moved to Mongolia. I did bring some DJ gear, still fairly newish, but I started DJing some more there in Mongolia. And while I was in Ulaanbaatar, a few times got threatened to get beaten up in Darkhan. They had very strict tastes at the time in terms of wanting waltzes and interesting things. But one thing that I did the most of, and I still appreciate it, was I would be brought from Darkhan, where I lived, got into one of the Meekers, the vans, Russian vans, brought to Ulaanbaatar to DJ. And I wouldn't expect money, but they would bring me in, feed me, put me up in a room or whatever. So I was DJing it. I even opened for DJ Mitsu the Beats, but played a lot of interesting parties. And sometimes people have even brought up to me, because there weren't DJs playing non-house music, non-techno so much, and I was doing that sort of thing.
Everybody's kind of going with the flow, not rocking the boat a little bit.
Yeah, and I specialize in doing genres like rockabilly or soul and funk. I can do hip hop. I can even do top 40 events, but I take a very strict rule of what I'll play and what I don't play. Right?
That makes sense. Yeah. It's like
at
a
the time,
signature vibe, right?
Yeah, and especially at the time, because I want to. First of all, I still go back to Mongolia a lot. In fact,
that's awesome.
In July, I'll be one of the sub-headliners at the biggest music festival in Mongolia called Playtime, doing it with Jack 45, who's a Ghanaian Afrobeat vocalist. We do an eclectic set. It's going to be very exciting. So I'll be back in Mongolia in July. And I still work on art gear things. And here in Taiwan, the first time ever.
What's up, here?
Eddy?
Yes.
I know I'm jumping around, but this is exciting.
Do it.
If you are in Taipei and you have not left Taipei, and I hope you do travel, but if you haven't, you have never seen a Mongolian reggae artist perform in Taiwan. That is until you and all your audience comes out to see Jija, the very first Mongolian reggae artist to perform here. He's someone that I brought in, kind of part of my crew here. He's performing on Thursday, which is the day this is being released, at 23 Music Room. Yes, we know. It's right now, right here. We're in the present.
Yes,
23 Music Room.
That's in Maji Square. Yeah, I know 23. The 23
Maji Square, of course.
Maji Square, yeah,
of course.
exactly, right?
I have no idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you guys have 23
exactly.
Yeah, here, right?
That's right, we do, yeah.
Archer Sanhao. Yeah, so he's doing that. He's part of our set there. And then on Friday, he's doing a show at Dam. And Saturday, we're in Taichung. So you should see Jija. He's promoting his new 10-inch record, which is the very first ever non-single Mongolian reggae release. So it's an EP.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 inches.
So what made it like?
So the Mongolian scene.
Yeah, the Mongolian
scene.
So
here's the thing. Especially at the time, and still to a large extent, but I don't have my finger completely on the pulse. Just kind of on the pulse. I don't like to take credit or expertise on things unless I really fucking know what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
There was the bar, brew, Irish pub scene of bands playing covers. And then every couple months, those bands would play like big blowout shows that they would try to sell like a theater at. I come from a club scene, DIY scene. There was a real lack of like club shows.
Gotcha.
Just something like on a Friday night for like 50, 75, 100, 200 people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I made it a kind of a mission to try to develop that to some mixed success. Like I said, we took over a space, we called it the Cross-Eyed Gypsy, named after an old girlfriend of mine. And we started playing shows. And by the way, one of the bands that really took advantage of that, Mohanek, is now relatively one of the bigger bands ever kind of out of Mongolia. They're going to be one of the headliners at the festival, and they've played in France, and I brought them around to China and a lot of interesting things. So to mixed success, we were able to do that. But there wasn't that sort of just club scene kind of so mumuch for local bands. And now there's also some interesting DJs doing some really fascinating things. Bodhu is one of them. Just some interesting DJ stuff. So, but Mongolia, I always say this, Mongolia and Bangladesh are two places that I just find there's just music everywhere. People, they're just singing. There's just everyone's. You know, you get drunk. Well, you're not supposed to get drunk in Bangladesh.
Okay.
But you get on stuff. You sing. There's music. Really interesting and unique. Mongolia, because of it's isolated in a lot of ways. It's a landlocked country in between Russia and China.
Yeah.
The PRC, I should say. It has its own culture that kind of developed musically.
Okay.
That it's tied to a lot. But there's really a lot of interesting music that I could tell you all about.
I'm curious about
artists.
that, honestly.
Sure.
I'm curious about that, honestly, because
yeah. Well,
like
that's why you're going to see Jija.
You're saying it's quite an isolated country,
in
right?
a lot of ways.
So people don't know that much about
Mongolia. Yeah.
So going in there, living there, spending a lot of time there, growing sort of the music scene there.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me a little bit more about the Mongolia life, music scene.
Sure.
I mean, is it similar to something else, or is it just like comparable?
Well, I mean, you know, there's a lot of that folk tradition which comes from being nomadic, which is you have to sing songs. It's almost, you know, lots of kind of call and response or sing-along things similar in that sense to African things where, you know, if you're nomadic, you can't be carrying instruments. So one of the special things that's involved with Mongolian culture is home, which is Mongolian throat singing.
Okay.
You know, I can't do it, but if you heard it, you would recognize it as well. But Mongolian throat singing, it also, the horse head fiddle is
Horse hair or horse head?
Horse head fiddle, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The Merenhor.
Okay.
Which is it's like almost like a cello-y sound, but you could even play it on horseback, like it's lightweight.
Oh, wow.
So these are instruments that kind of come from tradition, even though I know some UB guys, shout out to Mok, who don't kind of reject some of that traditional Mongolian stuff, but
Gotcha.
it's certainly at the roots of things we could say,
Okay.
even if you're not into it right now. And a lot of that is incorporated things. Obviously, the biggest Mongolian act right now, this is, I gotta pay respects in a lot of ways.
Please do.
It's unquestionably, it's The Who, H-U. They're currently on tour opening for Iron Maiden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're growing in the metal scene. They play folk metal, Mongolian metal music. Now, and so I promise you this. I'm sure you have some viewers who have heard of the Who, and you know they've like Metallica put out a box set, a tribute to their Black album, and the Who appear on that.
Okay.
They've collaborated with some other big metal names. They're a little controversial. Mongolian people, this is from my perspective.
Gotcha.
Mongolian people are kind of proud of this in a lot of ways because they're Mongolian national acts. They're proud of it for two reasons.
Okay.
One is we're going get ready for this one.
Okay.
Mongolian people are worried in a lot of ways of being consumed by mainland China. I don't know if anyone here really understands that.
Okay.
Here in Taiwan, but just you know, the PRC, you know, has a tendency to just kind of grab things. I don't know if anyone in Taiwan understands that or knows that. You can look that up. But
Yeah.
China was owned basically Mongolia until the White Russians kicked them out in the 1920s, about 1920. Well, Mongolians are a little worried when China likes to claim territory, claim cultural aspects of Mongolian culture,
Gotcha.
things like that. Because when the Russians came in, they gave China what is now considered Inner Mongolia.
Okay, gotcha.
They just kind of said, hey, China, you can kind of take this.
You can have this little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mongolians, a lot of them are a little resentful of that.
Ah.
But also, Chinese acts from the PRC will say, maybe they have some experience in Inner Mongolia, maybe not. Maybe they can speak Mongolian, maybe not.
Yeah.
They say, we're a Mongolian metal band. Because maybe we can play some Merenhorn, maybe they know some of the folk songs that make it metal. And that drives a lot of Mongolian guys crazy. Because they're saying, we're Mongolian metal. Have you ever played in Mongolia? No. Now,
gotcha.
there are some acts that have tried to bridge that gap. But especially 10 years ago, Mongolia is very close to China. It's a bordering country.
Yeah.
Had any Chinese acts ever played in Mongolia? For the most part, no. In fact, one of the first rock Nadam tours I brought featured a Han Chinese singer, which was considered kind of the first Han Chinese singer to perform rock music or popular music in Mongolia, maybe ever.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, what would be like the vibe if somebody from China went in to rock in Mongolia?
Now, like I said, there are some acts like Nine Treasures that are ethnic Mongolians who have tried to bridge it. I'm going to take some credit for really putting efforts to bridge that gap. In a lot of ways, I brought Banana Monkey, Boys Climbing Ropes was even before that, which had mixed members but include Pepe. Shout out to Pepe, who is in Shangro right now, who I'm going to see in a few weeks.
Nice.
And she's got, I love Pepe, little punk, Shao Punk, little punk.
Okay, Shao Punk.
And so what would it be like, especially when I lived there at the time?
Yeah.
And I say this with love because I think your audience will know that I have a lot of affection for Mongolia.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's obvious.
At the time, they had a big problem with anti-foreigner aspects. And there was a group called Dire Mongol who were the Mongolian neo-Nazis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they had a myth. This is a myth. It's not true. That when Adolf Hitler was in prison, he read The Secret History of the Mongols, which includes the story of Genghis Khan, to white people, and that inspired him to great things. This is complete bullshit, or as they say in Mongolia, yakshte. So, I'm just teaching you Mongolian curse words. That's the important stuff.
I like it. I'll take it.
That's bullshit. So but did they even know what a Jewish person was? Not really. It was all about ultra-nationalism. And they would have marches and be kind of scary. I got a black eye, I got beat up on the street and stuff. They did not like Chinese people. It was not if you were a Chinese person, you had to be on your toes. Like when I brought the very first ever hardcore shows to Mongolia, and a lot of hardcore music would attract heavy music tends to attract extreme people there. We had to have a sit down with the Dire Mongol guys. Like, look, we're just here to do a concert. We meet. We're not, kind of like similar to what you would expect, like a mafia situation.
I was
of
gonna
like
say,
there to
like,
be, we're here to bring peace. Yeah, here's some tickets. Come in, just enjoy the show. We're not saying anything, stuff like that.
Okay. Wow, interesting.
But there were some people who, in the Mongolian music scene, who were very open-minded, who were into international music, who very bravely, in a lot of ways, helped facilitate these things.
Okay.
And even these days, like that, I'm very excited to be playing Playtime Festival. Recently, they brought over one of China's biggest bands, Carsick Cars. Okay. Part of a deal. The reception, let's just say it like this. Okay. The reception they got wasn't nearly as enthusiastic you think you would get from a band as big as Carsick Cars, who I don't know if they've ever played
What's
Taiwan.
The genre? What's the style?
Carsick Cars, very Sonic Youth influenced indie rock.
Gotcha.
But kind of in mainland China, considered kind of legends.
Oh, wow.
When Sonic Youth was one of the very first underground bigger bands to tour China. Okay. Carsick Cars opened for them.
Wow. Okay.
And they, Jung and I, like they have a iconic song, and they're one of the biggest acts in Mongolia. This is a neighboring country. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No. That's why I was always curious because I know nothing about Mongolia. I've had a couple of
Mitskui. You don't know
Mitskui. Yeah. So I used to have a couple of girls that used to work in the restaurant because I've been doing the restaurant for a while that were from Mongolia. They came to Taiwan to study stuff like that.
Real Mongolia or Inner Mongolia?
I don't know.
And I say that with respect.
I have no idea.
No.
Because they just said to me Mongolia. I have no idea.
In some ways, not always. In some ways, saying that you're from Mongolia, if you're from Inner Mongolia, is like saying, "Oh, I'm from England, New England, in the States." In some ways,
New Mexico
or some.
New Mexico.
Well, although I wouldn't.
Mexico,
with some mestizo guys, I wouldn't even get into that.
Okay. No, I've never been to New Mexico, but anyways.
Yeah,
okay, that's cool.
But there are.
She didn't speak any Chinese.
Okay, then
zero Chinese.
Then she's almost certainly from the country of Mongolia.
We spoke in English, but even the English was pretty broken.
Yeah, then almost certainly she's from, because the big thing with a lot of the Inner Mongolians is they don't speak almost any. Like I would speak to some of the Gorin, one of the biggest Mongolian bands who doesn't play Mongolia, called Hongai.
Hongai. Okay.
So they're very popular on the Chinese festival scene. They play like the world music festivals, which I kind of sneer at in some ways. But I would speak to them in Mongolian, and I could have been speaking, Kazakh or French or whatever. They had no idea.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Okay.
So inner Mongolian people are quick to say, we're Mongolian. Mongolian people look at them and say, excuse me.
Not. Oh.
Excuse me.
So in Inner Mongolia, that's the part that's more influenced by PRC.
Inner
by
Mongolia
China.
is in the country of China.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you guys in Taiwan know about this at all.
I've seen the map, but it's been a while since
I
I
understand.
looked at it.
Inner
Yeah.
Mongolia is part of the nation of China.
Gotcha.
And I don't know, again, if Taiwan people understand anything about this, but just to educate you guys, like China is trying to influence its Han ethno-culture very strongly.
In Mongolia.
In everywhere.
In
the West, in Xinjiang, in the East, maybe you guys heard about this in the East as well,
Yeah.
in the North and in the South, everywhere.
Taiwan knows a little bit about
Really?
About that. A little bit,
I
bit,
wouldn't
yeah.
assume that, so I don't know anything about that.
A little bit. I don't know. That's always a sticky topic for sure in
what?
Taiwan. The Taiwan-China.
Oh,
right?
you're
Always,
hey,
yeah.
Did he not invite me
That's
to
right,
talk shit?
Yeah, no, it's
he
good.
did.
It's
So
always
don't,
good. Yeah, no, it's good.
And I'm
That's
still
good.
tiptoeing.
That's okay. That's good. No, man.
But I'm keeping it real.
Tell me
we're
some
we're
more.
telling the
Yeah.
truth.
So you've been traveling.
Yeah.
You said talking about Hong Kong, obviously the States, China, Shanghai, Mongolia.
I've DJ'd now.
So tell me about kind of that tour, like the whole vibe. Like what's a favorite place? What's a kind of a not so hot place? I mean, is it all the same thing to you? Or tell me a little bit more about that. Dive deep into that, maybe.
I kind of have favorites. I don't necessarily have least favorites. There's some towns that I don't really have a strong desire to go back to. But even like I said, even when I was in college, I used to do a thing called Saturday Adventures. No, but I have a Saturday Adventures tattoo. I have a whole bunch of tattoos, which we'll talk about.
Okay.
But I'll make fun. I'll create some shit. No matter where I'm at, like I'll find the interesting people. We'll be cool. Some of those Dongbei, Northeast Chinese cities that are very industrial and gray and cold.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not rushing to get back to. Some of them are great. Some of them, other places. But like Mongolia has a special place in my heart. Bangladesh has a special place in my heart as well. I mean, I like culturally rich cities. I mean, this is my third time to Taiwan. I was here in 2017, 2018. Something happened in 2020 which kept me away from here for a bit, but now I'm back. So this is Taiwanese people. This is.
Tell me about Taiwanese people.
I know. Well, let me educate you. Let me educate your audience about Taiwan.
Please do.
Okay?
Please do.
So, I have a friend in Shanghai. Her name is Shorty. Shorty had a mocktail-focused bar for a long while called Chill Out, and that was the most appropriate Taiwanese thing. I always find that Taiwan people, their temperature is just a little cooler. They're just more relaxed than people in the mainland, almost anywhere in the mainland.
Like a little more mellowed out.
A little bit more mellowed. Like they're drinking more bubble tea and less vodka.
Okay. Yeah.
Less.
Understand.
Like it's just more relaxed and chilled. Especially in Shanghai, people are just rushing and they're busy and stuff, or they're very they want to be fashionable and aspects of that. In Taiwan, everyone just chill out. I always thought that was really appropriate. Shout out to Shorty.
That's awesome, man. That's funny because I come from a really small town, right? And when I came to Taiwan, I'm like, okay, to Taipei, I'm like, okay, this is kind of a bigger city for me. Mm-hmm. And then before we opened this restaurant, we had locations at other places, but we went for a short trip to Korea, to Seoul, Korea. Oh, yeah. And that was like 10x fast pace compared to Taipei.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I walk everywhere, and I'm a pretty quick walker, right? And there, I mean, I had to like really keep up because the line is moving.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's moving. And like my wife walks really slow, so we have to be like, let's go, keep moving. So it was kind of crazy. Yeah, it was so I found Taiwan to be kind of like a happy medium. What do you got? Let's zoom in on that.
Here's a good vocabulary word. I studied philosophy, including especially ancient Greek philosophy. This is Aristotle. My favorite word in the English language, this is a good one for you, is peripatetic. It means two things. It means a follower of Aristotle or someone who walks everywhere.
I never even heard that word.
Peripatetic.
Peripatetic. I'm learning
Yeah.
English here on
There
the
you go.
podcast. There you go. Okay, so yeah, it was funny that I enjoyed Korea. Korea was a cool spot.
I love Korea. I go to Seoul almost
yeah,
every
yeah.
year, and
Okay.
Busan's really cool. There's a lot of great music out of Korea, and Koreans kill like they're so good when they put their mind to it or whatever. From hip hop dancing to tacos, the Korean tacos, great.
Okay.
Even like now they're getting into LA lowrider culture and stuff. Just amazing.
I heard that
shit.
that's big in Japan, LA lowrider culture. I have no idea, but
I've
I have
been
a buddy who's from LA and he talks about it. He's
Yeah.
like, there's a big Chicano culture in Japan apparently. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, you get that LA thing where
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
things mixed up.
Interesting.
I've seen it. I've personally experienced it more in Seoul, but I
Okay,
wouldn't deny.
okay.
I wouldn't not think so. Yeah.
Okay, so some other places you've been,
But
Bangladesh,
Bangladesh is cool.
Mongolia.
Well,
These are
let
like,
me just
these
say
are-
this. Well, I say this, and then people follow up, and I just say the same thing over and over again. I have DJ'd in every single country in East Asia,
Okay.
including Northeast Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia.
Wow.
I'm the only person to have
So
done
you've been
that
everywhere.
in East
in
Asia.
East Asia.
And other places. I mean, I've DJ'd in the Caribbean, and
Yeah.
Europe, and all over America too. So.
And then you
But every single
choose to
country.
live in Shanghai.
Well,
And
that's
what's-
where I
what's
ended up.
kind of-
I mean,
that's
maybe
kind
I'll
of-
move to
yeah.
Taiwan. Maybe I'm going to. You have some job openings here? Do you need
There's
a busboy
always
or
job
something?
openings, always job openings, man. Yeah, restaurant, that business. That's another topic. There's a lot of. That's a tough one, man. Restaurants.
Well, you need
are
a house
tough, yeah.
DJ here, don't you?
Yeah, we could.
And
we
one
could do
that's
that.
DJ'd in Mexico with Mexican records and
That
stuff.
sounds good. Probably-
This is my
yeah.
application,
There you
guys.
go. Okay.
That's reliable and on time, and is a peripatetic.
I already forgot.
What are the
word.
benefits?
Peripatetic. Yeah, the benefits.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
well,
we can
so-
talk
so it's
about
the bill.
that.
Let's- yeah, okay.
We can
So-
talk about that.
Yeah, and
yeah.
when can I retire? Okay, we'll talk about that
Retire,
later.
man,
Well, yeah,
oof.
I have. Yeah.
I'd-
I guess you
I'd
should
like
start
to-
first, and
I'd
then
like
I
to
can
do that one day. I'd like to do retirement one day. But man,
So every country, and that so that includes a couple of especially less common ones, which I could talk about: East Timor, Brunei, and the big juggernaut that I get asked about a lot, and I did a lot of podcasts and media about, which is North Korea.
I would love. Wow. Okay. I was gonna say the first thing that popped into my head when you said all the countries, and I'm like, okay, aside from North Korea, but apparently
Every country in East Asia.
including North Korea. That's okay.
Every country in East Asia.
So they obviously want DJs in North Korea, or how did that work out?
Sure.
Can we talk about that? Tell me
okay.
about that. That's
so
curious.
I did the Adam Carolla show talking about this. I've done a bunch of media. You can
Okay.
read my story on Vice.
Okay.
That I did for that. I did some things for Vice, including the North Korea story. Here is the quick version, because I've even done like
Yeah.
spoken word stories
Gotcha.
about it. Anyone can really visit North Korea. They recently, well, pre-COVID, yes, and now they've recently reopened it up. Even if you're from the USA or Canada or whatever,
Yeah.
you have to go in special tour groups.
Okay.
Choreo Tours was one. There's a guy with Choreo Tours. I helped him out, and he kind of owed me a favor, I guess. And so I was like, I want to DJ in North Korea. He said, no, I want to DJ in North Korea. Eventually, he was like, let's try to figure this out. Originally, it was going to be maybe like in an embassy area or other kind of place. But we found next to the main tourist hotel, there's another hotel with a basement. It was usually used for like a big karaoke room type
Okay.
situation, KTV. And they brought me in. The guy had to bring in my DJ gear.
Gotcha.
Walked in. I spent a lot of time with the tour group, but I also spent a lot of time without it, which was really special.
Yeah.
And when I was with the tour group, I also snuck around a bit more than
Of
I was
course.
probably supposed to.
Of course.
And
As we all would. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Maybe
no,
not the best
maybe
idea,
not.
but-
Maybe some people, well, most people didn't, but that's cool. That's
Okay,
fine.
okay, really?
Like,
Interesting.
yeah, like my favorite was there's a park situation where they're having a Korean barbecue, you know, similar to South Korean, but we would eat fast. My buddy and I made bigger concentric, bigger circles around the area until there were some North Korean family kind of friends. Sure, I'd love some
fill it
water.
up. Yeah. Yeah.
So there was family eating food, and they kind of called us over, and I went over there, and we kind of sat there at the picnic bench. They didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Korean.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like America, they're like, no, USA, No, it's like Obama, because he was the president at the time. They're like,
Obama.
Oh, but they knew Obama.
I knew Obama.
And so we kind of sang some songs, chilled out. You know, I can communicate fairly well, as probably can be possible if you don't speak any mutual language.
Yeah,
but then one guy
Mm-hmm.
kind of nudged the other guy with his elbow, and I wasn't quite sure what was up, but he was giving him the Iggy, and it's like, after a while, he's like, okay, fine, fuck it. He brought out a gasoline canister of soju, bootleg soju.
Oh, wow.
He started pouring bootleg soju shots.
Out of the gas can.
Out of the gas can.
I love it.
That really loosened things up
Yeah.
a bit.
Wow.
And then we started singing songs, and then they started feeding me food, a North Korean guy's food. Eventually, the tour guys came by, and I went
like,
back with
"What are
them.
you doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I played the Germs, some LA punk stuff for some North Korean kids and stuff on the subway. Lots of fun stuff. But yeah, it was a special experience. There were North Korean people there. They had never danced in an unchoreographed way before, a little bit like Dirty Dancing, right?
Okay.
Is it Dirty? Yeah, I think that's Dirty Dancing. No. Yeah. Footloose. A little bit like Footloose, not
Gotcha.
Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
And, but, you know, if you played something like The Twist by Hank Beller, not Chubby Checker.
Chubby Checker? No? Okay,
Well,
okay,
the original's by Hank Beller.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Now you know. And I play the original. People just dance. People are going to get up and dance. And, you know, there are the Red Cross people there and different people. So you had the other people there, and they were super excited to get any sort of culture and stuff. The power went out a couple times, but overall it was a great experience.
Wow.
And that became a big part of my branding and really kind of encouraged me to go interesting in new places. And like I said,
That's kind of
what I
crazy.
do.
I mean, you wouldn't think that that would be possible. I didn't think that people were allowed to go and visit, and then you kind of
You can
breaking
go-
off the tour group and that,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And is there like, I have no idea, is there, they depict it as like, you know, there's guards and stuff everywhere guarding whatever.
Well,
stuff. Is it- you feel
there are
this
some freaky
military
aspects
kind
to
of
it.
presence,
I mean, like,
something
look,
there? I have no clue. I'm just
here,
curious.
let me. I can say a couple aspects to it.
Sure.
One, like, in all the buildings you go to, they have the photos of the deer leader and
dude, yeah,
stuff.
okay.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. But here's what you really discover when you travel everywhere, especially places like North Korea. Like, I can't say things in terms of camps, in terms of places that I didn't go. I can't claim to have complete knowledge of a country in 10 days or whatever. We spent a
Yeah,
lot of
of
time in
course.
Pyongyang. But no, I think it's important to say because I'm not going to deny people's situations, but we went to a bowling alley as part of the expeditions or whatever.
Okay.
It was a little rinky dink. Sure. Went to like a little theme park, and there were North Korean people there, you know?
Having a good time.
And I even talked with some of the people there. I was like, so why'd you choose this job? They're like, no. This job was
Chosen
for them. All those things aside, or even though they are relevant things as well, many people, they have families, whether it's biological or
Yeah.
ones they make themselves.
Yeah.
They go to work every day.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, they want to do something fun, like go to the bowling alley or the theme parks. It's the same shit, whether it's Taipei, Shanghai, Pyongyang, Grenada in the Caribbean, Barcelona,
Yeah.
Tijuana, wherever.
People want to go out for dinner.
They want to have their
want to- yeah,
family. They
yeah.
want to. They have to work. They have
Yeah.
their thing. They have
Yeah.
a hobby or two, whatever's available.
Okay.
It's the same shit.
Same old, yeah.
And then they do that, and then maybe they retire, but they definitely die, and that's it.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So, yeah, I don't know how to follow the North Korea thing. That's kind of crazy, man.
But yeah,
Yeah.
after I I'd always been willing to travel and things,
Yeah.
but North Korea became a big part of my brand. But like then it's like, okay, if I'm getting a lot of attention from this
Yeah,
and I
makes
enjoy
sense,
it,
makes
then
sense.
people would reach out, or then I would have a calling card when I would call up other places to do. But Tibet was very interesting as well.
Okay.
Another place where you're supposed to have a tour guide for. In fact, the first time I went there, like you have to get a visa into the PRC.
Okay.
For most people, and then to get into Tibet, you have to get a second. There's another name for it, but a visa.
Okay.
And to do that, you have to be with a tour guide as well. Similar, not as in the big group situations with North Korea, but you need to have an itinerary and be in specific places.
Okay.
I did that the first time, and then I kind of snuck out at night. Got in contact with a bar thing and DJ there,
my
and
daughter.
then hello, and then but then from that context, I was able to be. The second time, they flew me into Tibet, and took care of me, and I was there a week. And I saw my tour guide picked me up from the airport, and then brought me back to the airport. But other than that, I was really on my own.
Okay.
And yeah, what can you say? Like being in, that's another place where.
Hola. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's business.
Yeah.
When I'm the DJ, the resident DJ here, I'm
man.
going to be. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Saying,
Hola.
everyone here, welcome to Eddy's Cantina.
No, hola means like, hey, someone's at the door. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But welcome. Why don't you try our special?
Yeah.
Yeah, the wet burrito.
The wet burrito.
Have you tried our tequila shots? We have a deal today.
Got mezcal as well. Yeah.
Mezcal?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Mezcal.
for a long time, was the resident DJ in Shanghai at a bar called Mescaleria, which was a vinyl DJ thing where for a long time, no longer, they would only serve mezcal as drinks.
Okay.
And it was really cool, very kind of craft. But I'm not a resident DJ there anymore, which is why I'm available to bring that love and compassion here.
To Taiwan, man.
That's why
Okay.
Eddy's, your podcast listeners should say, hey, we would love to see that DJ here all the time. And we could set up, you got a table here.
Comments below. If you want to see this guy rocking in
repost.
Taipei. Yeah.
It can happen. I'm ready.
Let's go. All right, man. Man, we've covered quite a bit. I mean, is there anything that you want to make sure you get out there before we call it?
I mean, I host acts and music groups in Shanghai. I'm trying to be more active on international social media. I document all the gigs that I do.
Okay.
At Border DJ Border Breaks, DJ BORDER BREAKS breaks, like that way
on everything, or on Instagram.
All the gigs that I do, that's on Instagram.
Instagram. So we'll put that in the description below.
Yeah, and Art Gear, the YouTube channel. Check it out. I got a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah.
And yeah, if people want me to come DJ, I can do that. I mean, we've just scratched the surface. Like we need 12 more hours. Although I'm getting hungry for that burrito and nachos.
Right. Yeah, the kitchen will be open in a sec, so you can eat.
Good. The people. Well, by the time you guys will see this, I've done A&R work. It's all music and culture. But I just encourage. Let me just say this.
Yes.
As a nice theme, as a nice Mr. Rogers sort of. What did we learn today? Sort of thing.
Okay. Wrap up.
Go
here.
explore culture. Go check things out. Music, movies, things. Hit the road. Go to places. Don't be afraid of places.
Okay.
Just go, do it up, and come chat with me. Come talk with me. I hope to see you guys at my gigs. Thursday tonight at 23, Friday at Rabbit Hole, Saturday in Taichung. Come out, hang out.
So you're here.
Elvis.
It's a gig.
Yeah, we can talk Elvis. We can talk Malwan, the Cat King.
I don't know if you noticed the microphones. I'm a
very old school.
Elvis, Sinatra. I love that stuff, man.
Well, I put on mainland China's first ever Elvis festival. In fact, I put my.
Here?
Let me.
Go get it. What do you got?
I'm just throwing everything away. But
earpods
this is Tim E. Hendry.
Let me
who
get you on there.
Watch this.
One here.
I'm going to connect you to two things right here.
Okay.
He is we don't use the term Elvis impersonator.
Okay.
We don't use it. We don't say that. He's an ETA. That's an Elvis tribute artist.
ETA.
And watch this. He's from London, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
Canada and Elvis. Look at that.
Canada and Elvis. Okay. And he was
the headliner as
Shanghai.
we put together a Shanghai All-Star Band of international performers. He's the headliner for that. And I hope to be doing more with him. Last year, 1 year ago, in a few weeks, I was the judge at an Elvis festival that he was working on in Tennessee. I've also done Elvis events in Tupelo. Do you know all about the connection to Elvis and the PRC in Shanghai? You probably don't.
I have no
idea. I was
idea.
talking all about that when I had my event at Vinyl Decision here this past Tuesday on Fat Tuesday, which was Mardi Gras, because 1 year ago I was DJing in New Orleans during Mardi Gras on the back of a cart. It was a very special time. There's too many stories. Danny Fruce, the prince of Indonesian ska music. This is his tour T-shirt from when we did events.
Okay.
When we did events, sorry, I was off mic for a second. But yeah, we're just getting started. We need to do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I mean, we can do any time.
But go out, explore, check out culture and stuff. Taiwan's got such a rich culture with Teresa Tung and movies. I was discovering old Taiwanese vintage. We don't like the term old. Vintage Taiwanese films. Yeah, lots of cool stuff.
nostalgia. Stuff
Nostalgia.
Like
I also don't like
you
nostalgia.
don't like nostalgia.
Look, I don't like the term nostalgia
Okay, tell me
because
why.
if I watch a Shanghai film from the 1920s, or if I watch a Taiwanese film, I saw one recently. The translation was the deer something, really weird and kind of freaky. Nostalgia implies that I like it because I knew it as a kid.
Ah.
I did that. That's nostalgia.
That's new
If
for
I
you.
discover it new, it's what I say a lot. I have. If another one of my Instagram accounts is the Guilt-Free Cinema Club, Guilt-Free Cinema Club, where I document public domain movies with pictures and videos and reviews.
Okay.
I like to present films. Sometimes I do soundtracks for them as a
Okay.
DJ, and but only public domain because stealing,
I
as the
understand.
good book says, is wrong.
Yeah. And what about the word retro? Is that an acceptable word, or is that kind of like retro nostalgia?
I'll allow it.
You allow it.
Nostalgia, we don't like vintage. There's no
Vintage.
word. There's no
Vintage.
time. There's no time where it's ever appropriate to use the term old.
Okay. Yeah.
I really mean that because
Okay.
look, Marshall Allen, who's a jazz saxophonist, he just
Okay.
released an album. He's 100 years old.
Okay.
Is that an old person thing?
Understand.
No,
Okay,
I
okay.
wouldn't say it's only a negative thing.
Gotcha.
He's vintage. He's old school. I'll
Vintage.
take old.
Old school is okay?
I'll take old if it's followed by
Old
school.
school, OG, original. OG's okay.
OG, Original Gangster. That album was largely
Ice-T?
produced by Africa Islam, who I
Okay.
brought to China.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm going to be doing an
Ice-T's
event with him.
album. Yeah.
Well, see, Africa Islam was the very
Yeah, the
first
first-
major hip hop DJ. This is part of my research. Very first major hip hop DJ to ever perform in Asia when he
Okay.
did the Wild Style tour, and then he was the very first major DJ to perform in China. He was Ice-T's DJ, and then I brought him back to do university talks.
Because I've
To get more
heard
stuff.
Ice-T mentioned. Yeah. Because I used to listen to a
Ice-T
lot
is
of that.
super.
Yeah.
One of the great
Awesome.
artists.
Yeah.
And his early albums were produced exclusively by Africa Islam, and then a lot of his later stuff as well. Stuff like Colors and stuff.
Okay.
Escape from the
Beautiful,
Killing
man.
Fields.
Dude. Wow. I'm gonna get you fed, man. Is there
Thanks
anything
a
you
lot,
want to
man.
say before we call it?
Thank you to everyone who's coming to your gigs. Thank you, Eddie, for being patient with
Nah,
me not knowing
all good.
exactly where this is.
It's
Check
okay.
out the Major One episode.
Yes.
Shout out to her. And Bayerschla. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you everybody for watching Eddy's show. We feel only happiness, don't feel any sorrow. Well,